Ngā mihi nui o te rā, and tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to acknowledge Minister Bridges and Chair Chris Laidlaw, and there are many regional and city councillors, there are many advocates, experts and international advisors here, there are operators, there is an absolutely wonderful mix of just the people we need to make a big difference. So first of all, welcome to our smart capital. And as Catherine mentioned, the weather, I should say, we're going to be winning whatever the weather. If it's raining, it's filling the dams. If it's solar, it's generating the photovoltaics. And if it just happens to have a little bit of a breeze from time to time, then those turbines in Makra are going to go round even faster. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you from around the world to the Electric Vehicle Symposium. And our compact city is a particularly good place for electric vehicles. I'm a very big supporter of electric vehicles. I happen to have an electric bike a little bit like that one, and I tell you it makes Wellington flat and windless, which is pretty good. It's just not quite so good for the waistline, but never mind. We've got some very ambitious targets of 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 and a trajectory to get there. In fact, we were one of the first cities to have a proper climate change calculator, so you can actually look at the different mixes of things that you have to do to get the emissions down. One of those things has got to be electric vehicles. So one of our opportunities ahead is to install charging points around the city. Now, lots of people know it's convenient to plug in the garage or you've got an electric car share, so that's all organised. But if you're thinking about going a bit further, or we've got people waiting to get the ferry across to the South Island, then charging points are part of that story. And it's quite exciting to see from, the 90s when there was that film, Who Killed the Electric Car, to see that they didn't quite strangle it, though I hear that there are certainly some resistance from some quarters still. It's not too long ago that I was at the opening of the Z Energy place where you can actually plug in for a fast charge, because let's face it, you don't want to be sitting around for too long waiting for a car to charge. Just 20 minutes to full capacity is quite amazing, just enough time to get a decent cup of coffee in Cuba Street. And there are some challenges. Range anxiety it's not just a male disease, range anxiety. It's a real issue. I remember taking the little Mia, the first one we had, up to Upper Hutt and back. And I didn't really realise that it was not the best idea to have the heating on full blast. And I had to sort of come in very, very gently back to the city with nasty little lights flashing on the inside. So, there are great developments as well. I think, Chris, I hope you've recovered from me driving you up the Nauranga Gorge in a Tesla S. Quite legally. We just didn't take very long to get to the legal speed limit. And that's one of the reasons people like to drive electric vehicles, because of that immediate torque. It's actually quite an exciting vehicle. I like it at the lights instead of, if you're going uphill, whether it's on your bike or whether it's in a car, that feeling that you are ahead of the game is pretty exciting. For other people, it's the quietness, the peace of it. If you're walking down, as many of us do, walking along the Golden Mile, trying to hold a phone conversation, those diesel buses make it almost impossible to hear yourself think, let alone what the person on the end of the phone's saying. And we want to see quiet electric vehicles. And yes, there's lots of debates about how fast we can move to public transport that's fully electric and exactly what mode it should be. But I'm really pleased to be working with the New Zealand Transport Agency and Greater Wellington and my colleagues on the Wellington City Council to see what we can do to make the public transport better, faster. And what used to be called long term, we might be now looking at short term or medium term. So we're very well placed in Wellington to have more electric vehicles, but let's just remember that electric cars don't solve congestion necessarily. At least they're not using energy when they're in a traffic jam, but they don't solve that necessarily. And as I said before, electric bikes don't necessarily solve the health and obesity issues either. But they are a dramatic difference. And we're going to hear later on today from some people from Norway. 40,000 electric vehicles on the road. We're seeing some very exciting opportunities in some of the states in America. And let's see what we can do by having a really joined up approach between city, region and national government. So I think we're all going to learn a lot today, and I encourage you to share your expertise and commit to as electric a future as we can manage. Kia ora, everybody.